I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me. And I will have Mexico pay for that wall.
Donald Trump yesterday in a remarkable campaign announcement speech. Trump, make America great again. That seems to be the branding that he's going for. The man knows his branding. And joining us right now is Alex Pappas. He's a political reporter at the Daily Caller. And you followed Trump quite a bit, Alex Pappas. What's your initial reaction to that remarkable speech yesterday?
Well, good morning, Larry. And yeah, I agree. It was remarkable. One of my favorite things about it was that as reporters, a lot of times when somebody's about to make an announcement like this, we get the prepared remarks ahead of time. And in this case, Donald Trump's campaign team actually emailed us out this 4-page, speech that he was going to give. As you can imagine, the speech he gave was nothing like the one that they sent out to us. In fact, he, for 45 minutes, went out there, and it kind of seemed like mostly ad-libbed everything he said. He completely, discarded whatever else I guess his advisors had written for him to say. And so, yeah, he said a lot of things, a lot of zingers, went after his opponents a lot. Went after Jeb Bush, questioned his intelligence, talked a lot about China. We always hear Donald Trump talk about China. And then I think it actually was the longest announcement speech any of these guys has ever given, actually, but clocking at 45 minutes.
I beat China all the time. All the time.
Alex, it's Dan Bongino here. I'm so glad you brought that up because Larry and I were talking about this in the last hour, how it's clear it was an extemporaneous speech, that the man is running for president. All of the eyeballs were going to be on him yesterday. And he just scrapped and he kind of like scripted. And my point to Larry was, and I'd like to get your take on this, there was listen, whether you're going to take him seriously or not, there was a lot of energy around this speech yesterday because I think in this new PC culture, there's a large growing swath of America that's fed up and they just want some real straight talk, and he maybe carve a niche for himself there.
Yeah, Dan, I think you're actually maybe right there, and why he's probably going to do better than a lot of people expect. I mean, and for the record, I don't think Jeb Bush and Scott Walker and all these other people are worried that Donald Trump's going to come in here and all of a sudden they're threatened and they're going to lose now. But he does insert some, I think, uncertainty, and especially into these debates, because as we saw yesterday, he's willing to go after everybody and he's not willing to pull any punches. And I think one of the reasons the speech probably worked so well for him yesterday was he didn't look like a politician. Had he read the speech that was prepared for him, he would have sounded like a politician. Instead, he's going after John Kerry for falling off his bike, saying, why was a 72-year-old man riding his bike? And he's talking about the prison break up in New York and is laughing and saying, it's very interestingly called Clinton, which of course has nothing to do with Hillary Clinton, but he thought that was funny. But then again, he's talking about a lot of these different issues and coming at it not necessarily sounding like a politician, but as a businessman who's kind of just being kind of a truth teller. And I think there's a segment of the party that's going to love that.
All right, a couple of questions, Alex Pappas. As a political observer, I agree. I think that especially compared to the pre-programmed, almost Stepford-like robotic performance that Hillary Clinton gives you, it is a breath of fresh air. However, in national politics, when the spotlight is on you, if you continue to talk off the cuff and just say whatever comes to mind, you tend to get into trouble, right? Is Trump... is he immune to any of the other pitfalls that another politician might step into? Any of the bear traps that are laid out there?
I think he already stepped into one. I mean, at least according to, some of the mainstream media was going after him last night for what he said about Mexico, saying that, Mexicans, they bring in drugs and crime and they're rapists, and a lot of, some of the more mainstream outlets were making a big deal out of that, like you would expect from a typical politician. But what I think, especially in a Republican primary, I think what his biggest problem may be is something we haven't really seen a whole lot of yet, but is going back and seeing the Donald Trump not of 2015, but of 10, 15 years ago when he was railing against the Republican Party, when he was donating money to Democrats, when he wasn't pro-life but he was pro-choice, when he said he was for universal health care. I think, the more that Republicans and conservatives kind of dig into Donald Trump's background, I think they're going to see he's hasn't always been the conservative that he portrays himself as today.
Hey, Alex, I'd love to get your opinion on this one. Who do you think? Who do you think? Whose candidacy do you think this hurts the most? And I asked that question. Did I beat you to the punch, O'Connor?
No, it's great. That's exactly what I wanted to know, too.
We've seen Herman Cain. We've seen Steve Forbes. We've seen Ross Perot. We've seen outsiders gain some steam
we
before.
have Carly Fiorina this time.
Good point. Carly Fiorina. Does this hurt Ben Carson and Carly Fiorina the most, or does your take on it, or is it potential that it does hurt maybe a Jeb Bush type? What's your take on that?
I think it's an interesting point that it could hurt Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson being the other outsiders, but I really think he's not going to be going after them in these debates. I mean, I think the viral moments we're going to see, and it looks like, by the way, Donald Trump is going to maybe make it into this first debate. You've got to remember, to get in the primetime debate, you've got to be in the top 10. The Real Clear Politics polling average right now of national polls shows that he's number 9, so he would be on stage with everybody, it looks like, at this point. And he goes after Jeb when he gets a chance. I think Jeb was the only other candidate, Republican, running that he mentioned by name several times yesterday, going after him on Common Core and on immigration. And I think those are going to be the moments we're going to see.
Yeah, and frankly, see, the way I'm looking at this, he is going after Jeb more than anybody else. Walker, I believe, actually paid a visit to Trump over the last several months, if I remember right, and may have even kissed the ring. It's possible that this could help Walker. It could help Rubio, having Donald Trump just sort of unleashed against Jeb Bush.
I think that's a really interesting theory, and I think a lot of that's true. And one thing we know about Trump, as you kind of just mentioned, a lot of these candidates have gone up the Trump tower. I'm pretty sure Jeb Bush hasn't. I know a lot of the other ones have, and I'm sure that plays a little bit of a role in who Donald Trump likes, doesn't like, and who he's going to attack.
You mentioned the debates, Alex Pappas, and yes, he is in that top 10, but there's also other aspects of it. There's fundraising and infrastructure. Fox News also laid that out. If you don't have a good ground game in Iowa and New Hampshire, you might not make the cut. What do we know about what Trump has done in terms of laying a foundation for a real campaign on the ground in those first 2 states?
Well, that was one of the reasons we knew he was actually serious this time, as opposed to some of the other times in 2000, 2012. He was actually serious about running for president because in recent weeks and months he's hired staffers in both Iowa and in New Hampshire. So he's building a little bit of an infrastructure there. I mean, I don't think it compares at all to some of these other candidates. And then when it comes to money, he says he's going to self-fund a lot, which is going to be a little bit different.
I think that's great, by the way, because that way he's not taking money from some of the other candidates, and I respect that, actually.
Right, and so he's got that. Even though it was interesting, I saw on his website he actually does have a donate button, so I guess he's still willing to give money, though, I guess if you want people to give you money, giving a speech like he did yesterday where one of the big things he says is, I'm very rich. Right. I don't know what sort of people give money to a candidate who says, I've got a lot of money, but I'll be interested to see how much he raises.
Well, not having to raise money obviously creates a lot of time for him to do other things, Alex. My concern with him, if I were a volunteer for his campaign, would be, is this really what he's going to dedicate his full – because this is as you well know, covering politics, this is a full-time plus another 8 hours a day gig.
Right, and Dan, and that's interesting because you know that well. That as a candidate, you spend a lot of time having to dedicate your day to raising money, and something that he's probably not going to actually have to do. I guess what I really want to try to figure out, and I'd love to talk to some people that are in the know about this, is at the end of the day, what's Donald Trump's, what's his real plan? What's his real strategy here? He's not the sort of guy that wants to ever lose. I mean, he's a huge aversion to losing. Does he actually plan to compete in any of these caucuses, or is he going to in primaries? Is he going to find a way to get out if it doesn't look like he's going to win?
Hey, Alex, I don't know the answer to that. Can you hold it quick? I have one last question I really want to get to. Just hold on right there. I'm going to get to you in just a second. Alex Pappas with Daily Caller talking about Trump. There's an important question that Alex can only answer. Quick follow-up question here. Alex Pappas, Daily Caller. You're a political reporter. You're going to be covering the campaign. You've written about Donald Trump. Donald Trump has become notorious for taking to social media and other forms of media and lashing out and attacking reporters who he thinks, aren't covering him properly. As a reporter, is that in the back of your mind at any time if you're going to tweet about him, if you're going to come on a radio show to talk about him, if you're going to write about him? In the back of your mind, is he kind of in your head? Because he's gone after, our colleague at Washington Examiner, at BuzzFeed, remember, he destroyed that one reporter at BuzzFeed who did an interview with him. I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head right now. He'll punch me for
McKay Coppins.
Thank you, McKay Coppins. Are you worried about that at all?
I'm not too worried, but it is funny. He's different than a lot of all these politicians. A couple of years ago, I wrote a story about him, and he did what is kind of his trademark thing that he does, where I think his staff prints out stories, and he has a Sharpie marker, and he writes a couple notes, and then they fax it to you. I got one of those. Luckily for me, mine wasn't as vicious as some of the others that I've known.
Right.
A friend of mine, Chris Moody, got one that I think said, stupid story, stupid reporter. Mine was a little bit nicer.
All right, Alex, thanks for that. I just wanted to ask you about that. Thank you for joining us, Alex Pappas, Daily Caller.